Namaskaram. Mahabharatam. We are on the 13th and 14th days. 13th day was the day when Abhimanyu was killed. And that day when Arjuna heard what happened, that Jayadratha had blocked the other Pandavas entering the Chakravyuha, the circular formation behind Abhimanyu, and that was blocked by Jayadratha. Arjuna became very angry. He was, of course, very sorry, but that sorrow strengthened the anger, and he took an oath then and there that I shall kill Jayadratha without doubt before the sun sets tomorrow. And if I don't manage for any chance, then I shall jump into fire and commit suicide. This was a terrible oath which was hailed the Pandavas, and the news terrified the Kauravas. Especially Jayadratha was terrified. He said, "Oh, Arjuna has taken this promise oath, so my life days are counted. Tomorrow there is no way I can escape Arjuna's arrows. So let me flee from here. I don't want to remain here anymore. Let me return to my kingdom and let me spend the rest of my days peacefully." But Duryodhana consoled Jayadratha. Don't worry, we are all behind you. Look at the army. We have whatever left of the 11 Akshauhinis and all the veterans, Drona, Ashwathama, Karna, Kripa, we are all there. We will support you. There is no way Arjuna can attack you without defeating all of us. So you are quite safe. And Drona also assured Jayadratha, don't worry, I am making such a battle formation that it will be practically impossible for the Pandavas to reach you. Then Drona explained his plan. Drona explained that he will make a Shakata Vyuha. Shakata Vyuha is a cart formation. It is supposed to be one of the strongest for the enemy to penetrate. And this will be 24 miles long. From one end of the Shakata to the other, 24 miles. And behind the Shakata Vyuha, Drona was telling Jayadratha, you go and stand further 6 miles behind it. And in the Shakata Vyuha, on all the important points, our veterans will guard. Not only that, within the Shakata Vyuha, there will be another circular formation, and within that circular formation, a needle formation. So, we are taking no chances, and Arjuna cannot reach anywhere near you unless he faces we veterans and defeat us, and it won't be at all easy for Arjuna. You are quite safe. So, Jayadratha was somewhat relieved. And Arjuna, that 13th night itself, Krishna at night thought about Dwarika. That is, he gave an order through remembering Dwarika, that Dwarika, Krishna's charioteer should be ready with Krishna's chariot for next day. It should be fully equipped with all his weapons, and the horses also must be ready. And when Krishna wants it, Dwarika should quickly reach the battlefield. None of the Pandavas could sleep well thinking about the next day's task. For the Pandavas, it was a task to make way for Arjuna, defeating the enemies on the way. For Arjuna, it was a challenge to reach Jayadratha as quickly as possible and defeat him and kill him. And the vice versa, the other way around for the Kauravas, to check the Pandava progress. And Yudhishthira, on the 14th day in the morning, Yudhishthira performed several pujas for Arjuna's victory. And when the time came, when it was enough daylight, they started. They blew on the conches. The drum instruments were bet, and they announced the start of war. That day, when the war started, Arjuna had to face Drona first, because he stood in the front of the formation to check Arjuna's progress. And Drona said, Arjuna, you have to defeat your main enemy, that is me, before you can progress. Come, fight with me. Then Arjuna said, Acharya, you are not my enemy, you are my teacher. Please bless me for my task. Let me I bow to you, and let me quickly make a progress towards Jayadratha. Drona tried to check. No, you have to fight with me. But Arjuna repeated, you are not my enemy. Because Arjuna knew that fighting against Drona will pull him down. That Arjuna, if at all he manages to defeat Drona, it might take the whole day. So Arjuna didn't want to waste time. Krishna also reminded. Krishna said, don't waste time with the Acharya. Just avoid him. So Arjuna took through the right side of Drona, that is the Pradakshina, took a Pradakshina path and left Drona behind and progressed. And there was one Kalinga king by the name Shrutayus. He was an important warrior, veteran. He fought against Arjuna, and it was a tough battle. At one stage, he had a mace given to his father by Lord Varuna. Varuna, Shrutayu's father, did long years of meditation on Varuna, and Varuna blessed him, gave him a mace, an infallible mace that used against any enemy was sure to kill the enemy. But there was one condition. Varuna said, don't use it against any unarmed opponent. Then it will retaliate against you. Incidentally, Varuna somehow seems to be the custodian of arms. There are many occasions when people, in Mahabharata, they pray to Varuna and acquire arms. Arjuna also did that. And at the end of the war, Arjuna, there is a scene where he returns the arms to Varuna. So that day, Arjuna was fighting against Sutayus. At one stage, Sutayus threw the mace against the enemy, and the one he saw in the front was Krishna. He threw it against Krishna, but Krishna was unarmed. So the mace turned back and hit Sutayus and killed him. So that was a tragedy for Sutayus. And following Sutayus' death, there was one Sudakshina of a Cambodia king. He gave a tough fight against Arjuna, and finally he was also killed. And after fierce battle, after fighting against many kings and warriors, it was afternoon, and the horses were tired. They were struck with arrows. They were thirsty and tired. And Krishna said, Arjuna, these horses definitely need a break. I have to give them water and give them some rest. So this is the middle of war. So Arjuna quickly thought of building a house of arrows. He dispatched arrows one after the other, linked them, and gave a shelter. And he asked Krishna to take the horses there. And within that shelter, Arjuna dispatched arrows to earth, which hit the ground and made water to come up in a fountain. So there was an artificial fountain that was created, and horses had plenty of water to drink. This was a marvel nobody had done before, and both Kauravas and Pandavas alike were surprised, were impressed with Arjuna's feat. And after the Arjuna had built a house of arrows in the Santana Gopalam seed. We haven't come to that in Mahabharata. In Bhagavata, that story is mentioned when a Brahmin lost children one after the other. He approached Arjuna. Arjuna promised to protect the next birth and built a house of arrows. Arjuna thought it was an airtight house with arrows. Yama couldn't come into that and take the life away. That was Arjuna's thinking. So Arjuna even promised the Brahmin that I shall commit suicide if I fail to protect this child. But Arjuna, unfortunately, Arjuna had wrongly assessed the situation. The child died, and Krishna had to intervene. So that was the artificial lake, story of the artificial lake, artificial fountain. That day, there were what is it called, a fierce battle between Ghatotkacha and Alambusha. Ghatotkacha was Bhima's son in Hidimbi. He was a Rakshasa, a very powerful Rakshasa. He had fought many wars for the Pandavas, and that day he fought against Alambusha, an arch rival, another Rakshasa on the Kauravas side. Alambusha had also won many battles for the Kauravas, but that day, after a tough tussle, Alambusha was killed by Ghatotkacha. And elsewhere, there was a battle between Bhurishravas, the Kaurava king, and Satyaki, the Yadava prince, who was very close to Krishna, Krishna's best friend. Satyaki was also a good friend of Arjuna. Arjuna and Satyaki had got training under Drona together. And Satyaki and Bhurishravas, they fought, and after a while, Bhurishravas managed to catch hold of Satyaki's hair, and he pulled his sword and was about to chop Satyaki's head. Krishna noticed that. Krishna told Arjuna, Arjuna, look, your friend is in danger. Quickly, if you don't act now, he will lose his life. So send an arrow immediately and save him. Arjuna looked and saw the situation, but he was hesitant because Bhurishravas was not fighting against Arjuna. It was against the norm accepted that day, the conditions that it has to be face-to-face battle in which one can kill an enemy. But Krishna insisted, come on Arjuna, don't hesitate. So reluctantly Arjuna sent an arrow and chopped Bhurishravas' hand, which held the sword. And Bhurishravas was surprised, turned and saw Arjuna who had pulled the bow. So Bhurishravas said, Arjuna, how could you do this? I am not fighting against you. Arjuna just hung his head. What else can be done? And Bhurishravas got so disgusted that he threw his arm from his weapon from the other hand, and he stood there in folded hands. Of course, one hand, only with one hand, but in that posture. And he wanted to prayopavesham, that is, he wanted to give up his life without any action and without taking any food. And when Satyaki saw that, he jumped, took a sword, pulled a sword and chopped Bhurishravas' head. Everybody who was around, they shouted, oh, no, Satyaki. Satyaki didn't care. He chopped Bhurishravas' head. That was one unfortunate situation. So in this Mahabharata war, one by one, all the norms which both the parties had agreed upon in the beginning, like that many people together cannot attack one single person. It has to be one-to-one or many-to-many. And you cannot kill an unarmed person. You cannot attack somebody from behind. So many conditions had put, both sides had agreed. But in the battle of Abhimanyu, the Kauravas had broken many of those. From then onwards, one by one, these principles were broken, and it became a war with no principle, which was predicted by Vedavyasa and Vidura when the war was announced. Our time is up. We will need at least one more day for this battle of Arjuna against Jayadratha, maybe more. Today we have to stop. Time is up. Namaskaram.